This podcast is meant for general health information and is not meant to override any medical advice. All questions will be screened and not contain any personal information. If you want a private consultation, contact us via positivechoice.org or you can contact your provider directly. Thank you and enjoy the episode.
Hello, and welcome to the Positive Choice Wellness Podcast. My name is Melanie. I am an exercise physiologist and nutritionist.
And my name is Kimberly, and I am a registered dietitian.
Woo! Welcome back. All right.
Thank you.
So we were just chit-chatting and having a good time prior to this. And, you know, a lot of what we do is oriented around health and wellness and food and exercise. But, you know, also, how was your weekend? What were you up to?
My weekend was great.
Wow.
Short, aren't they all,
Of
though?
course.
Sure.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But it was good. I think, would you believe it? It's Tuesday and I don't even remember what I did. But I do remember thinking it was good.
Okay. It is true. Yeah, same here. Also, pretty chill weekend.
Yeah.
Played a lot of video games, you know, the usual.
Ooh, yes.
Got some exercise in, always the case. And yeah, it was a good time. Just had a nice,
Absolutely.
relaxing weekend.
Good.
Yeah, I think it's because of all that rain, you know? It was a little rainy, a little drizzly.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of not the best weather to go out and go on a nice run or a hike.
That's true.
You know, we might get sucked into a river or something. I don't know. It'd be bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Danger. No.
Gotta watch out.
Yeah.
Well, I am really excited about our topic that we have today.
Me too.
Mostly because I really like food. So this is exciting because anytime we get to talk about food, I'm like, heck yeah, we're talking about food.
Yeah.
And we get to talk about, what is it?
We're talking about dining out.
Oh boy, so excited.
Ooh. Yeah. It'll be a good time.
Yeah, because everyone eats out, pretty much, for the most part.
Yeah. I mean, right? It's on every corner, everywhere, all the time. Super easy. Can't really get away from it.
Yeah, more convenient than we'd like it to be, probably.
Probably. Yep.
Yeah.
I
mean, I live off a road with this 2 taco shops that are within a block of each other, and it's the same taco shop. And they're not a chain. They're so good they had to be a block away. And it's like,
they had to put 2 of them.
You're surrounded on the same road.
No, just kidding.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But this is exciting because, you know, I feel like it's an important conversation to have. One, because dining out is such a common thing these days. It's just everywhere. Even if you get food to go, even if you go to a deli at like a store, that still would be considered dining out to a degree because it's pre-made from someone, like a restaurant kind of thing.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
There are definitely, I think, some pros and probably more cons than we'd like to admit.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's rough, especially nowadays when we've talked about the convenience factor and how it's already everywhere. But now in the smart world age, you have an app on your phone where you can also just get it sent to you. Oh, right. Or you can have it sent to your door without leaving your house.
Yeah, that's like some of probably the major cons or pros, depends, right? Like, you know, if you're still kind of staying at home and hunkering down, of course, ordering from home is a very huge benefit than, you know, having to leave your house and go out and potentially get sick or something like that. But if you're also like, I don't feel like getting up, it's like, that's where it kind of might be more of a con than a pro.
A little bit of a difference. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, you know, we're going to make a blanket statement here and say, like, eating out isn't necessarily inherently bad, right? Like, it's not inherently a bad thing because we get it. Like, life happens. Sometimes we like to get food to go. It's just easier that way. Or maybe you're driving somewhere and you have to stop along the way and eat because, you know, otherwise you're not going to eat, and that's not good either. So there are some very valid reasons to go out, get food and dine out and so forth. But I think where we're going to approach this is not going to be I'm eating out to have a really good time. I think we're going to approach this more of a life gets in the way. We're going to eat out, but how can we make healthier choices around that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's the approach we want to take to this because we all know what to do if we're going to go have a good time. I don't have to have a conversation with you about that. This is more going to be around like, how can we eat out and stay diligent with our health goals and be wary of what we're doing? How how do we navigate a restaurant? How do you know what you're going to do when you get there? How do you find the right place? There's so many burning questions I have.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Answer them all.
Right now.
Yeah.
Go. No.
Go.
What would be a good place to start, you think? Kind of establishing, why are we going out in the first place with the convenience factor?
Yeah. I think that's a fabulous place to begin. And there's so many reasons beyond just because we feel like it, right? To actually like go for a dining out kind of food option. Sometimes we go to restaurants where they make something for us that I would not be willing to cook at home. There's too much effort involved. Or, a big reason why I ate out when I was little is because my mom didn't want to do dinner dishes, so we'd go, there'd be no cleanup. So
that was actually my mom too.
There's,
It'd be a Friday. Yeah. We'd always get food out on Fridays because she worked and she didn't want to cook. And she's like, I'm tired. Traditional, like she was a stay-at-home mom, still cooked all the dinner when she did work too. So yeah, she was tired.
Yeah, for sure. Right. And that's the thing. It feels like a break maybe for some of us. I think it's also very much used as like a celebratory thing, right? Like if we're, celebrating a birthday, a graduation, any kind of life thing, typically we dine out. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons. What am I missing? What are some other reasons why we eat out?
Gets you out of the house, socializing.
Yeah, true.
You know what? I always find it funny. I watch these documentaries on food constantly, and you think about it, eating is actually really gross. And yet we do it as such a common social thing. We're like just sitting there like, Hey, let's talk. Food in my mouth. No big deal. And it's just the weirdest thing because you think about it, it's actually not like a pleasant thing to watch people do typically.
No, it's not. That's true.
And yeah, I think we've tied it in strongly with social things. It's also a culture thing too. There's a lot of cultures that really gravitate towards like, celebrating with food, and food's a big part of that. And maybe going out to a restaurant is part of that culture as well. Who knows? There's I'm sure there's more reasons than we can even think of today, but lots of options for that. And I always like to dig into a little bit of the history on it, not necessarily dining out in general, but like why we personally do it. Cause it's I should have been a psychologist. It's such a cool thing. I think the brain is fascinating, and the connections we make and the bonds we create in our head and connections and patterns that we develop can have some deep rootedness and maybe to our history, right? Like, you were mentioning as a kid, why would you go out and eat then? And that was always the first thing I think of when I teach my classes. That's the first question I ask. Like, why'd you go out to eat when you're a little kid? It doesn't matter how old you are. Why'd you go out to eat? And some people, I never did. Why do you eat out now? Convenient. But the question that really comes to mind when we talk about, why did you do this? It's like, well, why did you go out to eat when you're a kid? Usually orients around what? Like celebrations? Could be a promotion, could be a birthday, could be if you very seldom went out, there's usually some really special reason to go out, and people go, oh, okay, yeah, what does that have to do with anything? Yeah. How did you feel when you were ordering food? What did you pick? Was it a salad? Probably not, huh?
I don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's always what I love to dig into, because what drives us to make our choices at restaurants now could be pretty deep rooted in what we did when we were kids or when we were younger. If you were dining out then, it was always special, but maybe it's just a Wednesday or a Thursday you're going out to eat because it just was easy and you didn't feel like cooking that night. But that emotion, feeling that's deep rooted of like, ooh, but I used to like get whatever I wanted. It feels special. You go to a restaurant, it feels special.
Yeah.
That can dictate some of our choices, right? And that can make it really hard to try to pick something healthy. Even more so if you're eating out frequently too, right? This feeling is there.
Yeah. And you're looking to like, keep heightening that feeling or keep getting like whatever, those same sensations. That's good. That's true.
Yeah.
Totally.
And that's something I always want people to think about when they go out to eat. Because if you're really having a hard time dining out and making poor choices and you're thinking, gosh, I always just pick stuff I really shouldn't be picking, which I don't like to use the word should because that's not a pleasant thing to say. But, choosing things that are less healthy more so than things that are healthy, why? what is making you choose those things? What is the underlying thought behind that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And once you kind of figure that out, then we can start using techniques and tricks and make it easy for you. But I think part of it too is you have to get to the root cause. Why are you feeling this way? Is it something about it that's making it different for you? And we were actually chit-chatting prior to this, and you're mentioning some cool like psychological things that restaurants do that might actually promote these feelings that cause you to make bad choices, right?
It's true. It's both fascinating and maybe a little bit alarming that they study like the human brain that much. But it's
they're never going to stop. Come on.
I know, right? Yeah. They're just getting started. No, it's amazing though. Every single thing that you look at in a restaurant that you come into contact with has been planned and put there with intention. Nothing's on accident, right? So like, first starting with your surroundings, the colors yellow and red are supposed to trigger hunger. If you think about, a lot of fast food logos are yellow and red, right? Or at least incorporate one of those colors.
Or within the same spectrum, like oranges and stuff.
Yeah. Same. Totally. Same with like the actual environment itself. If you think about going to like a big, nice restaurant, often there's really high ceilings, makes it kind of loud. So there's often TVs or loud music, all kind of like dulling your ability to think and concentrate. Sometimes you'll find like natural woods and the greenery and all that stuff around, making you think, ooh, this place is organic and nice.
A succulent wall,
right? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Down straight to the menu, right? They study where our eyeballs hit the menu, and I can't remember the order, but it's some kind of crazy pattern. They study it and they put like their biggest ticket items or the things that are going to like sway you the most in those specific areas. It's like middle, top right corner, something like that. But it is wild. And then not just the placement of the menu, but the words that they use and the pictures that they choose to put there too, right? So they'll use words like smothered, right? Which like makes you start drooling just when you say it, or crispy or whatever. It's so strategically analyzed in order for you to not think very clearly, you to, succumb to some of their things they got going on and to spend your top dollar.
Yeah. And, there's something they call like page hierarchy when you look at like how you put stuff on a piece of paper and where your eyes go first. And a lot of it is how big you put something. So, usually typically those big ticket items have a picture. Not everything has a picture on the menu, but the ones they want you to get have a picture.
Yep. Absolutely. And it's usually like the burger with not just the pineapple, but also the crispy, whatever, it's like
this massive thing,
ultra fancy
fries. Yeah.
Exactly.
And you know what other people don't realize is they hire, there's a few things they do. They hire psychologists to help with this industry a lot. And one of them is, how we can influence people based on the descriptors, the smells, the sounds, and so forth. But another one too is like food artists. There's a whole job just to design food. And
wow, yes.
When they take those beautiful, like, that's why people go like, I see the burger on the menu and then I order it. It doesn't look the same. It's like, yeah, because a professional artist didn't paint a fake burger the right color. Because that picture you're seeing is probably like 50% not real food.
Yep.
Like
absolutely.
Milk in commercials is almost always conditioner. It's not milk. So,
oh my gosh, conditioner. I had also heard white paint, so that makes sense. Yeah.
The things we look at go, ooh, that looks amazing. It's like, yeah, that's not real food, but they know how to have food psychologists. They know how to get us. And so that can dictate our choices when we get there too. They're like, oh, but they'll see it and go, oh, but that looks so good. It's like, and here we are.
Yeah, exactly. So it's so true.
And gosh, I mean, there's restaurants that will just rely on smells too. That'll get you to buy things.
Yes, the smells. I mean, I'm sure we've walked by locations and caught a whiff of the things that are almost knock you backwards. They're so strong, right?
Yep. There's a barbecue place locally that you walk into the parking lot and you're just like, oh, I smell barbecue. I'm ready.
Yep. 100%. 100%.
It's time.
It's time. Hit me with the barbecue. Yeah.
So we have all the stimulation coming in. We have all this input from all the stuff we're dealing with in a restaurant. And that is just bam, bam, bam. How can I make you make choices that you wouldn't normally make? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it gets to the bigger question is like, how can we go and dine out successfully and not deviate from our goals and choose something healthy compared to maybe like the burger or the nachos or the burrito or, you know, whatever the things are. Cause again, not saying you can't have those. Go for it. Just probably not all the time. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Preferably.
Yeah.
Totally though. It's, I don't know. It feels like it can be some kind of like muddy waters navigating how to dine out successfully. And I think really what it comes down to when you can is planning as much as you can, right? I know often we'll wind up in a scenario where we dine out, last minute decision, right? It's not something that we've like carefully articulated and planned out all the things.
I feel like those are usually the ones we get into the most trouble with. You're like, yeah, I don't feel like cooking tonight. Let's just go out.
Yeah, right. It's true. And then we pick like, I don't know, all the things we shouldn't, and it adds up. But so when you can, okay, that didn't, when you plan out successfully in advance, like get yourself a little bit prepared, you can navigate eating out in a healthy manner or a more optimal manner than if it's like a last second. You know, a lot of us don't really like make the best food choices when it's super last second, right? Like if we waited 8-10 hours to eat and now we're starving, we're not going to be like, ooh, yay, carrots, right? So having some planning in there will help a lot. I was craving
kale. Yeah, that's what exactly. Like, I'm starving. That's all I want to eat is kale.
Hit me with the kale. Yeah, exactly.
But that's a fair point because I've definitely been there myself, like when I'm really, really hungry. And I think this is a common tactic for people who want to get their money's worth, right? Like I'll make sure I'm extra hungry so I can get my money's worth of food.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because, you know, we work really hard for our money and then we want to like spend it on something worthwhile. And that means a lot to us. And we'll go hard on purpose for that reason. So you're totally right. Yeah.
I think of my father-in-law because he's the buffet guy. So we always joke he has a hollow leg because like he runs out of room in his stomach and just starts filling the leg up, you know?
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
But he's one of those people. He wants the most bang for his buck. So it's like, I'm at a buffet. I'm going to eat as much food as he's like, I'll starve myself all day for this buffet. And he goes like 3 p.m. and just eats plate after plate. And this man's very small. So like, it's fine. He can afford to do that. But I don't think everybody is as fortunate in their ability to eat that much food. You know?
Totally.
So what would be, I guess, some good tips, like obviously planning, but what are some other good tips too, you know, to kind of help us navigate eating out where we're not always making the worst choices?
Yeah, absolutely. I think some helpful things are, like we said, planning in advance, but kind of thinking about dining out, especially if it's something that we know is going to happen, like some kind of celebration or whatever. You don't have to show up to a restaurant starving, right? You don't have to show up ravenous, like ready to dive into all the food. It's 100% okay to have some kind of snack situation before you go. That way, when you get there, you know, when we're ravenous, we're not thinking clearly and we're going to pick the very first thing that looks the biggest and sounds the best. So when we go with a little bit of substance in our stomachs, we can, you know, often think a little bit more clearly and not necessarily find ourselves prisoner to like all the things that they're trying to throw on us, so to speak.
I like that trick actually, because you really shouldn't go anywhere ravenous because you start thinking poorly, right? Like I love to mention this to people because I'm all about the physiology of stuff, considering that's literally what my degree is in. So, but when we run off of glucose as our fuel source and fat, but like mostly glucose, right? And when our blood sugar starts to decline, that's where that hangry comes into play, right?
Yes.
And problem is your brain only runs off of glucose. It doesn't run off of any other fuel source. It only has glucose as a fuel source. So when your glucose is low in general, you don't think right because your brain goes, give me glucose now. I'm dying. And so that's why we start making these really poor choices. And they almost always are really carby, really, really high in sugar or something like that. Because our brain is saying, I'm starving.
Yep, exactly. I even make poor emotional decisions when I'm in that state, because I'm like, I'm angry, don't touch me, whatever. My poor husband. But yeah.
Oh, he puts up with you. It's great.
He does.
Yeah. And another trick that's also helpful too, and this is, again, not saying you can't do this, but like if you choose to go out and get an alcoholic beverage of sorts, let's say, one of the things that is always recommended is they always take your drink orders first before you get your food. Like, don't put an order in until you get your food. And people don't realize this. Tip. Yeah, people don't realize this, but like if your stomach is empty and you drink something with alcohol, that can get you drunker faster. And some people go, oh, wow, great. No, that's not great. That's bad. If you're trying to make good choices, that's not what you should be doing. Because you get drunker faster and you start making poor choices. So
yeah, it's a snowball effect.
Yeah, because then they give you your drink and you're drinking it and you're like, cool, what looks good on the menu? And then at the end of the day, you start making choices that you probably wouldn't have if you didn't have some sort of alcoholic beverage in your system.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it does impede your decision-making abilities. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Drink water first. Fill yourself up on some water. That's just a good tip in general.
That is a good tip in general. Drink our water. And that's a good tip actually for dining out in general too. If you're looking to like make a kind of healthier option, not getting your calories in through liquid is a good idea. So sticking to like a water or an unsweetened tea or something like that will help save in some areas, / your money as well. So
that's true.
Those drinks add up.
Yeah, I always like to get their like seltzers or because like people don't realize this, but if they have soda, they have seltzer because that is what the base of soda is. And so typically, if I go anywhere that has a soda machine or seltzer machine or like some sort of soda thing, I'm like, hey, can I get like a sparkling water with lemon or lime? And those give you a little wedge of lemon or lime, and it's just as good in my opinion. I'm fine with that.
That is an awesome pro tip. That's really good.
Some people they like bubbles. I like bubbles.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. We want to have something a little bit more fun, a little bit more different than water with our meal. So that's a good way to jazz it up. I like it.
Yeah. Now, what are other things we can do? We're there. We've got there. We maybe did research beforehand to figure out what we wanted to get. But what are other things we could do while we're there to help make better decisions?
Yeah, I kind of like you mentioned, we did some research maybe beforehand. I think again, when you're going in advance, if you can look at the menu before you go, I do think that is a helpful option just because when you go and sit there and then you're like, half distracted, half in conversation, then you have to like haphazardly make a decision. Sometimes it's more helpful to know what you're having and don't even open the menu when you go. So that can be a helpful tip. One thing that
is when you do that and then they don't have the thing that you want.
Oh my gosh, true.
I swear that happens to me every time I do that. So I always pick up a backup thing. I'm like, well, if this isn't there, I'll try this. And that's happened twice where they both
back
on
to
the
back.
menu.
Oh no.
My life. Anyways, continue.
Oh no. Well, maybe we should come up with options A, B, and C.
I'll see the table. It's fine.
No big deal. That's awesome. I think another, a good tip that is always, or almost always, I should say, available, but we just have to have the willpower to choose it, is swapping out our side dishes. So very often a standard side dish at any kind of location is some form of potato, whether it's mashed or fried or whatever, right?
Yep.
Or some kind of white bread on the side.
I'm laughing because it's just true. I'm just yep, you're not wrong.
Right? I mean, it is what it is. So doing some kind of like seasonal vegetable, seasonal fruit, steamed vegetables, little house side salad, those kinds of things are available. Maybe not largely screamed at us on the menu, but they're available and we can make that swap. So even something like that, swapping out the side dish for something a little more nutrient dense can be helpful in navigating.
Yeah. And I've noticed that too with side salads, like lately I've noticed a lot of menus don't even include a side salad. Like they have a salad section, but there's no side salads. And let's say I'm not committing to eating in a salad for dinner, but I'd like to have one instead of fries or something like that. I just ask and I get one.
Yeah.
I've never had an issue. It's been great.
That is awesome. I think that's one of the things is when we go to a restaurant, it's okay to be that person who asks for the different things and the modifications and whatnot, right? I mean, Joe, we're spending a lot of money when we eat out. Typically, it's not like something that comes for free anymore. So Not that it ever did, but you know what I'm saying. So anyways, it's okay to ask for the food how you want it and make the substitutions and stuff.
Yeah. You know, what's funny? I actually did one of those things the other day. Cause I love seafood. So I went out and got sushi with my husband, and as everyone knows, sushi has a ton of rice, and I try not to get a ton of rice because I recognize, one, it's filler, it's cheap for them, and two, I like fish and I kind of want to eat more of that. So when I go there, something that carried over actually from like the high protein, low carb diets of the early 2000s is the protein style. And what's great is I can go to a sushi restaurant and order a protein style roll. And it usually either comes as like the rice is actually imitation crab, so just more protein, or they'll wrap it in a cucumber. So there's no rice. It's just protein and vegetables and maybe a little avocado, and that's it. And it's every restaurant I've been to, whether it's listed or not, has some form of a protein roll on their menu.
I love that. Okay. That is awesome. And super true. Super true. And it helps bump up that veggie a little bit.
Exactly. And then you're like, oh, and I got more protein out of this because, you know, they're trying to skimp you on that. They want to save money. So, you know, it's another way to get more bang for your buck, right? Because you can make rice at home. If you really want rice, make rice. But if you're there for the fish, which is usually why people go to sushi, they don't go there like, I like rice. Like, that's typically not why people go to sushi restaurants. But it's like exactly what you're saying. It's okay to just ask, like, can you do this? And most of the time, I would say 99% of the time, it's a yes.
Yeah, absolutely. We just have to have that strength to ask.
You're the customer. They want you to come back.
Yeah, they want you happy. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So substitutions, altering things on the menu, swaps, that kind of stuff. Love it. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Another way to do that too is like a la carte. Some people choose to shop to strategically pick off the a la carte menu, so they're not getting like all the extra, you know, fluff that sometimes comes with those meals.
A la carte's basically like if you see an item on the menu, the restaurant has all those ingredients, so you can pick and choose and make stuff your own way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like breakfast places do that, right? Like breakfast places will have like a little a la carte menu. Like you can get eggs or potatoes or sausage or this or that, and you can like piecemeal together a breakfast.
Yes.
And what people don't realize is a lot of restaurants, you could just say, well, I see you have this. Can I just get this and this put together and make that as a meal? And they will do that.
Yep. Absolutely. Again, comes down to the, you know, looking and asking. And we gotta be
diligent. We gotta be diligent.
We gotta be our own advocates.
Another thing that's just a good tip, just in general, and this is from a personal experience many times over that I constantly do, and I should do this and I never do, and I'm like, man, I should have done that. Ask how big the thing is. Like whatever you're ordering, ask how much food you're gonna get, because that's the problem. You look at a menu and you see something and think, oh, that should be enough for me, and it should be enough for a football team. You know, like it's wow, that's a lot of food. And
okay.
Exactly. So unfortunately, there are instances where you might find you get a ton more food than you expected. So
yeah.
Like my common thing, I typically ask that like a server, someone's like, well, is this enough for like one person? Or do you think this would be enough for a couple people? And they will tell you, oh, it's meant to be shared, which sometimes you don't know that.
No, you really, really don't. And that's probably part of the strategy to a certain extent. But I love that. That's a super good tip, because then at that point you can either like, you know, split it with someone that you're with, or you can ask for, I have patients who ask for half of it to go in a container, right? Like have the waiter put half of it in there for them and then bring it out with my meal, or bring it out after.
That's a smart idea.
Save it for later, you know? Yeah. Definitely.
I'm a plate picker, because if I'm sitting there waiting for my to-go box, I'll just sit there and like, let me make it even. And I'll just keep like slicing little pieces off, and it gets smaller and smaller until I get the box. I'm like, well, there's no point now.
Right? Yeah. I'm like, oh, I don't like the shape my potatoes are in. Let me eat them into a better shape. Yeah.
Exactly. It's not just move them. I have to eat them into the better shape. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that is such a good tip. Like half before he even gets to your plate. Yeah, and gosh, there's so many other things you can do. I think the oldest one that's been around for ages has been like, get your dressing on the side for your salad. Like, we all know that trick. I think that's very common knowledge at this point. But
Right.
you know, like one technique I also heard is if you get a creamy dressing, which we don't encourage if you're eating out and trying to make a healthy choice, like oil and vinegar, salt, lemon juice, something like that.
Yeah.
But if you happen to get a creamy dressing, the technique I learned was dip the fork, then eat the salad.
Yep. Absolutely. That is such a good tip because you're going to still get the flavor, still get all the joy of the dressing, right? Without the necessarily like swimming of the vegetables in the dressing. Yeah, definitely. That's a good tip.
Any other tips that you know of? See if we're on the same page here, because there's a lot out there.
Oh my gosh, there's so many. That's such a good hands-on one.
I always tell people they can order from like the kids menu if they have healthy options.
Yes, that is true. That's always a good one too, because the portions are obviously smaller. I think that's one of my favorite interesting facts about restaurants is that like the standard plate we recommend eating off of is 9 inches, right? Mm-hmm. The standard dinner plate at home is usually more like 12, depending on, you know, what you got. And then restaurants are usually 13 or bigger. Like, I mean, have you seen those platters, like those oval platters that sometimes like you get at a restaurant or whatever? So, that's just that, you know, picking from the kids menu would obviously give you a smaller plate.
Yeah. And, you know, it's so
food.
funny too mentioning that because I had a couple of patients of mine who were like, you know, I tried ordering from the kids menu and they're like, well, is this for a kid? And they would be honest and say no. And then the restaurant's like, well, sorry, we can't serve you. You have to get from the adult menu. And I was like, what if your kid's at home and you're bringing food to them at home? How are they going to know? Like,
that's true.
I'm not encouraging lying, but maybe just omit that it's for you, you know? If the restaurant's being that finicky, but at the end of the day, why does it matter? You're spending money in their establishment. That's just my qualm. I'm just going to put that out there into the universe. I'm a little meh about that. But aside from that, senior menus, kids menus, those generally are appropriate portions for people.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And they have, you know, that's so interesting that they do that. That is a massive bummer. I wish everyone could just order off the kids menu. We don't have to like look like we're 7, right?
Yeah.
But
that's one tiny portion. Come on.
Yeah, come on. Work with me. Give me a small quesadilla. I don't know.
Yeah.
But a lot of menus also do the they have some kind of lighter menu now as well, which not necessarily that all that stuff is also fantastic, but it often comes with smaller portions or, you know, the side is a vegetable of some sort or a brown rice or something. So it is nice that they have more than just their main base menu.
Yeah. And I always love when restaurants kind of cater to like, you know, you want to have lighter fare. Here's a lighter menu or like, you know, lighter options. It's not required, but it's always just nice when they do. Yeah. And especially when they put the calories on the menu, because then you go, oh, well, I'm not going to get that now. That's way higher than I wanted to eat.
Yeah. Like, oh, hello. That's my whole day. Yeah.
But yeah,
for sure.
At the end of the day, you know, it's easy to eat out. It's hard to eat out healthfully. But one thing that I just encourage folks to do when they're dining out is just remember, if there's some place you really want to go and really indulge in, do it. But if you're just going out because you just don't feel like cooking, there's no need to order indulgently if you plan to do something later or know, you know, like where you're going doesn't necessarily have what you love, but they have healthy options or, you know, something like that. But try to find the healthiest option you can if that's your intention of eating healthy. And some restaurants cater to that. So there are certain restaurants out there culturally that just tend to be healthier, like Mediterranean restaurants. A lot of Asian restaurants actually really cater to healthier options out there. Not so much steakhouses and Italian restaurants. Not that I don't love Italian food or steak, but you know, they're not always going to cater the healthiest food to folks. Yeah. So sometimes there's just places that are just generally inherently healthier.
Yeah, it's true. There definitely is. So we can definitely navigate making like a better decision when we go to one of those knowingly. That's why sometimes for like quick, faster food, sometimes we recommend Sandwich Shop, right? Because you can pick like a better bread, or you could do a protein style, load up with vegetables, omit the
Some of them
creamy
even just
whatever.
do salads. It's
Yeah,
just like
you
a
can make it
salad
into a
bar
salad.
minus the bread.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, any amazing other dietitian tips that we should know about for dining out that you can think of that are super cool, super exciting?
Super cool, super awesome. I think that, one thing that comes to my mind is just, I was listening to you on a prior podcast, actually.
Oh, fun! Thank you. I'm flattered.
You got a fan. No,
Oh my God.
And, you had actually mentioned that by the time you thought about eating out, made your choice, went and got the food, whatever, came back, it didn't actually save you any time compared to if you just cooked food. And
Exactly.
I think that that's something for us to consider, is that it's not always the level of convenience that we think it might be,
Yeah. It's a common thing for me because I'm walking distance from a local restaurant, and it's really easy on a Wednesday night to sit there and be like, I don't feel like cooking. You just want to go get food. And then by the time we actually get our food and eat, it would have taken me the same length of time to make something at home. And it would have been half, or if not less than half the price.
Yeah.
Yes, there's the
Absolutely.
convenience factor that I had to clean, but I was hungry now and I still had to wait half an hour to eat, which would have been the same amount of time at home. So sometimes if that's your intention of I just want food now, remember, if your food comes out now, I would be a little worried because the restaurant shouldn't give you food within 5 minutes. That's not how food works, right?
It shouldn't.
It's a little fast, a little questionably fast.
Little questionably quick. Yep.
A little bit. But at the end of the day, as I mentioned earlier on, I'll say it again. If you want to go out and enjoy yourselves, by all means.
Yes.
We're not saying you can't, but
Absolutely.
we can't do it all the time,
Yeah.
every single day, and enjoy ourselves that often, because unfortunately it will lead to some unfortunate negative health consequences.
Right. Doesn't always come out in balance. So definitely we're big believers in moderation. So we can still do those things, but
Yeah,
also balance it with, the other good stuff.
exactly. Well, on that note, I very much appreciate our conversation, and I'm so thankful that you were able to give us your insight into this. I love it. Remember, everybody, to share, subscribe. If you want to comment on, YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, what have you. But with that being said,
Yes.
until next time, everybody.
See ya.